Hello everyone, so yesterday we had some pretty big news for Total War 40K. This was directly from Games Workshop and not from CA. A very old school character, Nazdreg from the Bad Moon clan, is not only getting redone but showing up in Total War 40K, and this is quite important for a number of reasons. This basically confirms the whole theory that Games Workshop and CA are going to work a lot closer when it comes to the creation of models and the implementation of, say, for example, units and characters. Much more so than probably would have happened with Warhammer 3. Second up, I mean, it's great to see a lot of characters that have existed in the lore. Keep in mind that while Nazdreg hasn't had a model for quite some time now, he has been popping up. I believe he's showing up a lot in the Armageddon series too. So it means that as more and more characters get redone by GW, which is happening a lot lately, it's likely that we're going to see a lot of almost forgotten big names appear in Total War, which is great. Obviously, before anything, let's just talk about him in game. He looks freaking cool, just fighting up that guardsman. I love yellow armor. Bad Moons are really, really cool. I've been kind of considering about painting my Armageddon box in Bad Moon colors. I've still not decided. All I've decided is my Space Marines are going to be Soul Drinkers because Soul Drinkers are the coolest chapter. And we know more or less how he can basically work in game, thanks to the fact that Games Workshop, when they announce big character models, they usually release the rules, which we have for Nazdreg. So it's a lot of shooting. He's still going to be very good at melee, but you can see here, he's got the Gatler, he's got a shooter, he's got a Scorcher. All this stuff, I do wonder how it's going to work in game, because when we do have multiple shots and stuff like that coming from a unit in Total War, it's always kind of finicky. But I'm imagining new engine, it'll be a lot easier to get that done. And it's not just for characters, it's for tanks and stuff, because they've got sponsons with extra weapons and the rest. This is a very good time to say that if anyone from CA is listening, we need multiple ammunition meters, because it just shows usually the one, and if it's got multiple ammunitions, we're not going to be able to know what is going to run out relatively quick. Special rules wise, well, there's quite a lot. Intimidating motivation is basically just kind of shocking some of your own troops to get up there. He's got Deep Strike, which is going to be good for teleports. I imagine that we're going to see a decent amount of Deep Strike stuff when it comes to Total War 40K. He can ignore cover, which, could be a very basic special rule there. We've got similar stuff when it comes to Warhammer 3. And then Supreme Clumping, it's once per phase per army. If an enemy gets too close, you get an extra charge bonus. Well, it's a normal move, but translated to Total War will likely be charge bonus. Basically just oh yeah, the enemy's close, you get extra charge to go in there. Kind of like what's happening with Bashiva now, right? So a second legendary lord, or well, I don't know what they're going to call it. They're likely just going to go with the classification of the normal keywords for 40k, so it would be an epic hero or an epic lord, just to kind of separate them. We'll have to wait and see. This is pretty cool for the orcs, because now we've got Gazkul, we've got Nazdreg. A lot of people thought it was just going to be the Build-A-Bear stuff like Daniel, but it makes sense to introduce loads of characters, starting off with 2 and then adding more famous ones, because these ones will then easily be convertible to sales for the tabletop. At least I know that kind of works that way, because it's how it's worked for Warhammer 3, and Games Workshop likely want to push for that. So it just makes a lot of sense. But that means, we've got 4 races. It's likely 2 legendary lords each. I'm just going to use the Warhammer 3 classification for that, because it just is easier for me right now until we have a proper identifiable name. But now we have a fair amount of confirmed legendary lords. For the Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard, we've got Commissar Yarrick. For the Greenskins, we have, well, Nazdreg and and Gazkul, both very cool characters. And then obviously I think it's been confirmed. I'm seeing all these confirmations. I haven't seen it anywhere with the Space Marines getting Calgar. I'm seeing loads of Reddit posts about that. I know a face kind of looked like Calgar on the images that they posted through the trailer, but hey, it could be everyone. A lot of Space Marines look the same. That being said, let's just use the mentality that Calgar is there, because it makes sense. He's the chapter master of the Ultramarines. Nothing so far for the Eldari, but there was art saying something Beltan, so maybe a character focused around Beltan. They just kind of fits with the theming, right? Unless they're just still deciding. Keep in mind that Creative Assembly are probably still on the works of what character gets approved by Games Workshop and the rest. It does feel sometimes that a lot of stuff for Creative Assembly gets done, well, fairly last moment. So, what's next with other characters that are missing? There's 1 per faction that can be assumed that we're going to get, since the Orcs got 2. It could be someone out of the blue, or it could just be someone that's already active. This is the thing. There is so much potential here. Imperial Guard, the Astra Militarum, have a fair amount of characters up and available. The problem is that the Games Workshop website is pretty awful to navigate. But there could be stuff like, the Lord Marshal for the Kriegers, Lord Solar, or maybe they want to just go with more of a standard look, go with Ursula Creed, I know a lot of people don't like her for some reason, but I like her. At the end of the day, it made sense. Her father passed away, she took over, right? There's Commissar Graves, or considering the fact that, yeah, we've just had a character come up, Cyphus Cain could be a big possibility. They want to go for some big names, but I do imagine that they'll want to hold back some big names too, just for the purpose of DLC. Remember that obviously Total War as a whole is a big DLC farm. Nothing wrong with that. I've been enjoying the DLCs thus far. It's more of the case of they will want to hold back some stuff. Well, logically they would want to. I've got no preference for who they pick here. They could just go with some other characters who haven't been updated for a while, but I do imagine that they'll keep it relatively simple with the idea of, focus around more Cadian aesthetics and then kind of expand from there. We haven't seen the full roster right now, but this is the perfect time for Games Workshop to start doing some massive updates overall. And if this goes well, many of us were kind of hoping for with Total War Warhammer, well, yeah, it's going to be better for everyone. Tabletop fans and video game fans. Please, if anyone from Games Workshop is listening, update the Catagen range. Please. Oh my god. It's the same models that I was painting up when I was a kid. There does have to be a discussion regarding Space Marines. There's a lot of Space Marines on the Warhammer website, and there's characters, generics, units. It's all together because apparently you can't filter for the epic heroes. Well, you can if you go on specific chapters, but this is something that I really wanted to talk about. There are so many different characters here that I really hope it's just not going to be another Ultramarine or an Ultramarine successor. The benefit that they do have here is there's a lot of different characters that can be used, and different characters can introduce different playstyles for different factions, as we've seen with Warhammer 3. I don't imagine they'll do a Space Wolf or a Blood Angel and the rest, because in the future, some of them have specific styled models for themselves, which separates them from the base Codex Astartes, but what could be done here is introducing, why not have a little fun with something that doesn't have anything too unique, right? Go for Pedro Cantor, that would be kind of cool. I think a lot of people have been wanting an updated Pedro Cantor model for a while. In fact, if you scroll through YouTube, there's usually kit bash videos of that, using Gravis armor and the rest. It doesn't have to be a model that's already available. There's a lot of characters that haven't had a model for a while or haven't had a model at all. It would be kind of cool just to see more chapter masters, maybe. What doesn't need to be done is introducing Primarchs so quickly. I feel like 40k kind of got a little bit Super Friends, Power Ranger style when we started seeing more and more Primarchs come back. Don't get me wrong, they're cool, but the average Space Marine chapter going into all the side ones definitely helps for theming. Now, if they're going to follow the whole thing with Armageddon, which is possible, they could just go with Dante, because obviously the Blood Angels are supposed to be very heavily involved in Armageddon. Well, they were for the box art, and now they've gone back to Ultramarines, so I mean, expected, right? I'd not mind that. I don't think the Blood Angels have, too much unique stuff, to be fair. I'm going through the website. There's a lot of fun, cool characters like Mephiston, but I feel like Dante makes a lot of sense because he is the chapter master appointed by Gilliman. Whatever happens, happens, but I do feel like it needs to be someone really cool and kind of different from what we're expecting from Kalgar, right? Obviously we still have to wait until we can kind of see what mechanics will be and stuff like that, but difference needs to be done for chapter playthrough. Eldar wise, I think I'm pretty open. Really, the only problem I have with the Eldar lately is the superfication, where the Eldari, the Drukhari, and the Harlequins have been kind of moved together, and then they haven't, and they have lost story points. Well, not even lost, just abandoned. It's a very weird thing what's going on with the Eldari at the moment. The only character they go for, I'm fine with. Got no personal preference. I mean, there's some really cool ones, right? Fugan is pretty damn awesome. We'll have to see what they go for. So with this, I just wanted to talk about it because obviously Nazdreg was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't even home for that, so I'm a bit late to talk about it. Any characters do you guys want to see specific to the Space Marines, Astra Militarum, or even the Eldari? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. There's no point really talking about the greenskins. I don't think that we're going to get a third greenskin lord. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if they did, but I imagine DLC and stuff, right? There's going to be a lot of DLC. Hopefully they've learned how to keep up the momentum with 40k a momentum that was lost with Warhammer 3, that's for sure. So have a great day, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye.